Listen up, guys, because we have a new product alert from my absolutely favorite sponsor and a huge friend of the channel, Manscaped.com. They released a brand new product that, to be honest, I desperately needed, and that's the Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer. Now, oh my god, I really can't believe I'm telling you guys this story, but have you ever been on a date with a girl and she kind of points out your nose hairs like while she's sitting across from you? Well, that's happened to me before. And dude, it was by far the most embarrassing thing on earth because I typically don't trim my nose hair. Thankfully, Manscaped is changing the grooming game with the Weed Whacker Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer. And they've spent over a year reinventing the traditional nose hair trimmer using only the best materials for the best performance and comfort possible. The way Manscaped is different from your traditional ear and nose hair trimmer is they use the same skin-safe technology from their lawnmower body trimmer, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs, and anything else that would just cause you crazy pain as you're grooming yourself. They use a 9,000 RPM motor with a 360-degree rotary dual blade system to safely whack your nose hairs. It's water resistant, so you could take it in the shower, and it's the only nose hair trimmer on the market with a cordless rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts for up to 90 minutes of use. Now, if you happen to not purchase the lawnmower yet, well, I have some good news for you. The Weed Whacker is included in their brand new performance package, and typically a Weed Whacker, Crop Preserver, Crop Reviver, and Lawnmower 3.0 would cost you about $200, but now their performance package and peak hygiene plan is only $109.99. But get this, you can get an additional 20% off of your purchase if you use my promo code TheFlightmike for 20% off. That's promo code TheFlightmike for 20% off on Manscaped.com. And thank you, Manscaped, for the sponsor. There's one thing that we could all agree upon. It's the fact that this year's NBA season is an absolutely unprecedented one. On one hand, I was really fascinated and absolutely enamored by how remarkable the season was. Think about it. This is the first season that I believe was probably the most balanced season that I've ever seen in probably all my life of being a basketball fan. Throughout all of my years watching the NBA, there's always been one team that was the clear favorite to make it to the NBA Finals. And this year, I don't know about you guys, but I can't really recite off the top of my head who I think the NBA Finals matchup's going to be. I want to say it's going to be LeBron James and the Lakers versus, I don't know, Giannis and the Bucks. But then you have to factor the fact that Pascal Siakam is still holding it down in Toronto. The Boston Celtics seem to be completely revitalized with the addition of Kemba Walker over Kyrie Irving. The Los Angeles Clippers, in my opinion, are more built for the playoffs than the Los Angeles Lakers are, and I'm a Laker fan. But in addition to the fact that the season in of itself was remarkable, we also had some great storylines involving Zion Williamson and John Morant, some fantastic rookies that I personally didn't think were going to be this amazing so soon. I, of course, expected Zion to be incredible, but I didn't think Ja was going to be this good so soon. But unfortunately, the season was taken away from us as a result of COVID. And now that the season's coming back, we're left with some pretty interesting scenarios. And in this video, I want to tackle probably the most interesting one of all. Now, really quickly, guys, before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn notifications on to help the channel grow. And cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Your boy TheFlightmike back again with some NBA news, and today I wanted to discuss a pretty interesting scenario regarding injuries in the middle of the playoffs. Typically in the NBA, the way the playoffs work is there's a specific cutoff time as to when teams can make alterations to their roster. It's just a very weird feeling to be in the middle of a playoff series and saying, okay, we're going to bring in this person from free agency to add to our team in the middle of the playoffs. It never really made sense to me to do that, but for the first time in quite some time, we're in a scenario or a predicament where we must do this, where an NBA team needs to add a player if they have to And what I'm talking about is, let me paint a picture for you guys, and hopefully this never happens because I'm never rooting for anybody to get sick. But let's say the Los Angeles Lakers are facing against the New Orleans Pelicans in the very first round of the NBA playoffs, and let's say, I don't know, JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard gets the coronavirus. I hope it doesn't happen, but let's say hypothetically speaking, they get the coronavirus. Now the Lakers are down one player, and it's the playoffs. What are you supposed to do? And on top of that, if one player gets the coronavirus, there's a chance that every player on the team could also get the coronavirus. Now, again, of course, I'm sure there's going to be proper social distancing measures being taken, and players are going to consistently be getting tested to ensure that they're safe. But in that scenario, in the midst of by far the most iconic point and the most pivotal point of the NBA season, what do you do? Well, the NBA is coming up with an answer to that. So let me take you through everything. We all know that on July 31st at Disney World, the season's going to resume. Players are going to be quarantined for at least 7 days and possibly up to 14 if they get the coronavirus. So according to Adrian Wojnarowski, if a player was to get the coronavirus, that player would be quarantined for at least 7 days and possibly up to 14 because of the risk and the potential competitive disadvantage that would bring. Teams are also expected to be able to sign replacement players, and negotiations are currently underway to determine what players will be eligible to be signed. And here's the official statement according to ESPN. If COVID-19 or a serious injury strikes a team during training camps or the 8 regular season seeding games, there is expected to be no limitations on the number of players a team could sign to replace those lost. But there would be restrictions on those in the pool of eligible players. Now, eligible replacement players will likely have to be signed in the NBA or G League or be on training camp contracts this season. Under those restrictions, for example, no team would be able to sign a player like Jamal Crawford, who went unsigned the entire season, or J.R. Smith. And the league office discussed the possibility with its teams that there could be a requirement that those players replaced for COVID-19 or injury would become ineligible to return for the balance of this season. Now, that last statement that I made, the one that mentions that players could be ineligible to return for the balance of this season, I really am having trouble believing in it, to be honest, because let's say, I don't know, you get a player that is absolutely pivotal to the fiber of the NBA playoffs. Let's say LeBron James or Zion Williamson or Kawhi Leonard or Giannis Antetokounmpo goes down with coronavirus, and they're out for, 5 to 7 days. There's still a lot of ambiguity with this brand new illness, so we're really unsure about what it takes to fully keep it at bay and keep it at peace. So let's say they're fine after a week and they could return. Are you telling me that when the Bucks are in the midst of a crazy series against another Eastern Conference team, they're not going to let the reigning MVP return to continue leading that team to potentially an NBA Finals appearance? I have a tough time believing that. Considering the amount of revenue that the NBA has lost from having to suspend multiple games in the NBA season, I can't help but feel like if there was even the slightest opportunity to get one of their stars back onto the court, they will take everything it takes to get that player back onto the court, assuming that the player is healthy. Now, again, I'm no doctor. I've taken a plethora of medical classes, but at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if a player gets coronavirus and recovers from it, if he could pass that on to another player that never got coronavirus in his entire life. So I'm unsure how that works, but here's another thing that you guys have to pay attention to. This is a necessary thing for teams to replace players if they need to, but teams may not actually take advantage of this rule because, for one, the health and safety measures in place already would mean a huge delay between signing a player and then actually being able to have that player assist on the team. They would need to be quarantined after arriving in Orlando, and then they would have to get up to speed with what the team is doing in a very, very short period of time. Just think about all that goes into a new player being integrated to a team. Think of all of the new schemes, all of the new plays, everything that you have to instruct him to do. So think of that and then factor in the fact that it's going to be during the NBA playoffs, and even those seeding games could be counted as playoff games because they're equally as important. I don't think any of these replacement players are going to be huge contributors on teams, and if they are, that's going to be absolutely fascinating. So considering the fact that you're not really able to sign great players, you're going to be able to sign like D-League players, it might just make more sense to wait for the player that is already sick to recover and return from his injury/illness. And that's not to say that teams will not add players if it's necessary, but there's just some real thought that will have to go into that decision, especially if replaced players are ineligible to return for the rest of the season. If one of your main go-to starters gets sidelined with coronavirus and you sign a player to replace him, that means the original player can't come back. So if the GOAT, Alex Caruso, hopefully this never happens, goes down with COVID, and you want to just sign, Joe Schmo out of the D-League and have Joe Schmo replace Alex Caruso, then Joe Schmo is your new player. You cannot bring Alex Caruso back once he's recovered from his injury. I just thought that this was a very interesting scenario in the NBA. I didn't see many people discussing it, and I thought this was really interesting. Let me know what you guys think about the NBA's solution to this problem. I think they're doing a fantastic job. They're really thinking about everything they possibly could. Once again, guys, if you enjoy the content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe and turn on my notifications. I'm your boy, TheFlightmike, and I'll catch you guys in our next upload.